Hello guys, welcome back to What If? This is the fourth instalment of the series, 13-part series, and today we're talking about Fireman Sam, Series 5 from 1995. So, Fireman Sam, great show, credited by Bumper Films back in 1997, and sort of its original run finished in 1994. However, what if we go on a further series in the mid-90s? Like, straight after Series 4, what would this series be like? And I always thought about that, actually. There would have been possibilities to do more, but it depends, really. It depends if people like Rob Lee are interested to actually carry on writing for the series, really. Who knows? But it's sort of interesting, and here's an idea what to expect from this one. So, the fifth series, so coming after Series 4, this would have been definitely the last one. This would have been the last ever series of Fireman Sam, or the ones done by Bumper Films, of course. They dissolved in like the late 90s. They did after Star Hill Ponies, so they would have, only had a few years left of that company, really. So this would have been the last one they would have done. And it's all fitting, really. There's some stories that are so fitting and so works, really, in a way. There could be many different types of stories, but I chose these ones, of course. So let's do this. So most of these come from the Buzz books. If you're familiar with Buzz books, great company, actually did a lot of tie-in books they did. And we still got loads of them in our possession, wherever, in the attics or whatever. It's just, it never escapes you. Those books never escape you, And obviously Fireman Sam had quite a range, actually. Some based on, adapted from television stories, but also a lot of new stuff as well, like new stories. And I think they were written by a woman, actually, rather than Rob Lee. I'm not too sure the woman who the writer was, really, but who knows. So most of these stories are based on them, really. There's three stories that have been actually adapted from audio cassettes as well, which we'll get into. So, obviously, of course, this will be the last. 8 episodes. There's only 8 stories in this one. Usually it's 8 episodes in a series for Fireman Sam. It's strange. You can do something like maybe not 12 or 13 or something as the usual thing, but it's 8 stories. That's basically the norm, really. 9 if you count. I think Series 2, no, I think Series 3 actually. Series 3's got 9 episodes, it does, whereas the other ones have 8. So this is 8, so it keeps up with the template, really. These are just perfectly chosen, really. Some interesting stories as well, so here we go. So, first story, of course, obviously John Alton is probably the last time to be narrated by him, of course. And yeah, so let's not beat around the bush. Let's do this. So, first episode is Sam's Night Shift. This is written by Rob Lee, and this was actually narrated by John Alton for an audio cassette. This was so it involves Sam going on night shift, of course, at the time, and involves Trevor Evans getting stuck in his pantry window at night, really, because he left his keys in the bloody house. He did. So it's an interesting story. It actually works. Actually, having listened to it, it's actually a really good story. Actually, I'm surprised that's never been adapted, really. So this would have been an interesting an opener, actually. You start with this one, and it's like you start with Home and Rome, because some action takes place in a department store, actually, which is totally different, really. So start something different, of course, takes place at night in Pontypandy. You've also get introduced to a policeman as well, so he'd probably be like this one-off character, and might be interesting. Unless you see the legs, of course. You probably see his shadow or something like that. He can probably be like just one of the puppets, really. You just see a shadow, of course, and just Jonathan do a voice. You never know, actually. It depends how it will work, really. Unless they decide to make a new one, or we use some stuff from Joshua Jones or something, I don't know. We use some parts, of course. Maybe we use, like, Mr. Bigot's, puppet of sorts, but put, like, a police officer's uniform over him. Who knows? It could be like that. We don't know, actually. We'll have, will be some interesting possibilities with that. But it's a nice little fun story, and Jonathan sells it, really. So it's a good one. So it opens that one. Number 2 is Bumper Jumper, or if I mix these up, actually, the right selections down below. I'm just going on the top of my head. Bumper Jumper, this is basically another one by Rob Lee, audio cassette. Basically, somebody with Bella's lasagna trying making a woolly jumper for Sam, and somehow it saves the day, solves a problem, it does. That's how it is, really, but Jonathan narrates it, so it's ideal, so that's the next one. And then you got Rabbit Rescue. You do, which is, I think it's called Sam's Rabbit Rescue. Another one by Rob Lee, another one by the audio cassette, of course, and do rabbits, of course. So again, that's another one that's included, of course. So if it all goes in the same vein as like Lost Cat, Lost Ring type thing, so Rabbit Rescue, fair enough. Interesting. Now, next up we got is Trevor's Trial Run. Now, this is based on the Buzz book, but it's also been adapted into, like, on audiocassette. Like, it's been narrated on audiocassette, but I think by a woman, I think. Not by John Alton, by somebody else, I think. So it sort of deserves its place, really. A bit like Spot Above Her. Involves Trevor doing a marathon, like a charity marathon or something. And that seems ideal. It's like harking back to Series 3 or whatever. So that's a nice one it is. Next up we got is the Fairground, which is, again, based on the Buzz book. It's called Fairground Rescue and the story, but I just plumped to the Fairground because I kind of like two stories called Rescue, like something Rescue at the end. It's like, no, it doesn't work like that. Basically, Sam, James, Sarah, and Norman get stuck on a fairground, on a roller coaster. Actually, it stops, so they end up being rescued. Would have been interesting, actually. So it would have been a different setting entirely. You know, it's entirely set at this fairground. So which would have been interesting. Sort of like gives you a bit more scope and a bit more interest. You know. So again, experimenting with different locations in the series. So yeah, will be interesting. Afterwards, you got. So what about now? Episode 6, Norman in Trouble. This is another interesting one because Sam only appears briefly in the story. The main focus is to do with Sarah, James, Norman, and Penny Morris, actually. So Penny Morris is basically the sort of hero in this situation. Involves Norman being stuck in a treehouse, really, that Sarah James have occupied beforehand. Again, staying in a different place, staying like near a riverside, I think, actually, on a riverbank, you know, and treehouse, whatever. Would have been interesting. That's another one to the location. Interesting stuff. The penultimate one is called Trapped, and this involves like I think it involves like, you know, there's a fire going on in the prices shop. Dilys gets stuck in a cellar, she does, and ends up being stuck. Also, it harkens back to, like, you know, with the bloody what do you call it? Smell detectors, whatever. So it's like harkens back to Safe with Sam. It does, and so it works. And also, I think at the end of the book, of course, they come find you. Where's Mam or something like that? And it's like they find in the cellar all dusty and whatever. So again, another interesting one. It might be maybe like Rich and Famous and Safe with Sam, that one. Anyway, and the final one is the Pride of Pontypandy. Just involves the fire crew very much. Like, I think it's like do a celebration or like they earn the recognition or whatever. I think that's how the story goes. But also the little subplot involving Trevor being stuck in a landslide very much. Or something rockery or something like a landslide type thing. So, and obviously rescue him and they get awarded recognition, that sort of thing. And that sort of ends it. That sort of finishes off the Bump Films era of Fireman Sam nicely, it does. So that fits a little ending, nice little ending to that. And I think that's how it turns out. So there we go. That's what the fifth series of Fireman Sam would have been like. A mixture of stuff like by Rob Lee and some of the Buzzbox stories, some interesting ideas, and it will be interesting, actually. You know, again, it takes some different turns, it does, and lovingly works, it does. So there we go. So what your thoughts are, comment down below. If you want to, what your interpretation of Fireman Sam 5th series would have been like, please comment down below. I would be interested to see what you think, you know, what your ideas are. Any of these videos I've been doing, comment down below. I want to see your thoughts on these. What are your ideas? What do you want to see from these shows? What do you think might be something of your interest? Certain aspects, different characters, new locations. Comment down below. I'd love to see what you put. Thank you for watching, guys. See you later.